Hey there, Vero 311, former Marine infantryman, Revolutionary War reenactor, amateur history enthusiast, and also a collector of these historic military rifles and muskets of the Flintlock era. And so today's video, I actually want to go through my collection and what I paid for them. I've gotten questions of how much are original antique military flintlocks worth? And today I'm going to show you what I paid for them, and hopefully this will help you make judgment call for how much you would pay for a piece if you find it up on auction or if you run into one, or just general knowledge, the value of such things. This is important because the range of antique firearms is very, very wide. Generally speaking, in the military surplus, you can kind of get plus or minus a couple $100 on like a model of 1903 or a K98, depending on the quality. You don't see these original flintlocks as much, so I thought I would just make this video and go over what I paid for it, and hopefully you'll learn something. So I'm going to be breaking it down from number 6 all the way down to number 1. Number 6 being the least amount of money I paid, and number 1 being the most amount of money I paid. So today I'll be looking at a model of 1803, a French 1777 style gun, a model of 1819 Hall rifle, a French infantry musket, an American Charleville musket, and an American model of 1816. So just a general view of all that. I'll leave timestamps down below if you just want to skip to those guns and see what I paid for them. All right, let's get started. Coming in at number 6 is this. This is a French style of 1777-9, also known as the mystery musket. I've made a couple videos about this. This one has a very, it touches my heart in a special way. Because I originally bought this thinking this was a 1777 or a French Model 9, and it turned out it's kind of a mix of different parts, and Ethan from 11 Bang Bang has kind of helped me narrow it down to a French Revolutionary War era gun. So what that means is that when the French Revolutionary Wars are happening in the 1790s, they were putting together any of the guns they could because they had the levy en masse, and they were putting so many civilians in the uniform out into the field to fight all of France's enemies. So they started producing sort of these, not last ditch, but mass producing as many guns as they could. And that's what I think this is. We haven't really had any direct confirmation of that. So I spent $1,144 for this. What you're looking for an actual confirmed model of 1777 is there should be markings right here on the lock plate. There would be a cork right here in the stock that would have more information on the gun, and then just just different markings throughout the guns. This one's pretty void of markings, and that's why we kind of call it the French Revolutionary War style mystery musket. So what I've seen actual French model 1777s or French Model 9s go for, usually $2,000 to $3,000. They don't really show up on the online auctions that much. Usually I see 1 or 2 or 3 a year, and half of those appear to be over in Europe, which kind of makes sense. So just so you know, if you're looking at buying an original 1777, about $2,000 to $3,000 is what I would kind of expect to pay for one of those. Beautiful guns, by the way. I love them. Number 5, a Harper's Ferry model of 1803 rifle. This was America's first standardized military flintlock rifle made at a national armory. It's not interchangeable parts, but they at least tried to standardize down the half stock design, a heavy barrel, a shorter barrel flintlock, and then just the overall components of the rifle. Model of 1803, and they're made till about 1819. You have 2 types of these that you're looking for. This one in my hands is a Type 2 from that second type or second batch of guns that were made. It cost me $1,680. What you're looking for this, as with any standard American military arm, is that you want to see if it has its proof mark right there to mean that the barrel's been proofed, the U.S. property stamp, Harper's Ferry, 1819. You want your eagle crest to show that's U.S. government gun. And yeah, so I picked this up for $1,680. They're pretty unique because you can see how it incorporates a lot of the American long rifle style into America's first standardized military flintlock rifle. And that includes the slope of the buttstock right here, this trigger guard with that built-in rest, and yeah, a beautiful piece. I see these going for about, I've picked this up pretty good at a pretty good price. $1,500, $1,600 for maybe one this quality, but you can go all the way up to $4,000. The Type 1s, they didn't make as many of them, and those will catch a premium, $3,000, $4,000. Number four, definitely not the most visually pleasing gun, but definitely the most interesting gun. This is an original model of 1819 Hall rifle. This one was made in 1826. I picked this up for $1,775. This was actually accessed out of a museum in Richmond, Virginia. So yeah, I was able to pick it up out of a museum. So what? We'll just do a quick overview of what is the Hall rifle. The Hall rifle's claim to fame is that it is the world's first breech-loading military flintlock rifle made of completely interchangeable parts that was made at a national armory for a military force. America can claim number one on that. Breech loading mean you can just pop right here on the latch and you can load from below the breech. I picked this up for $1,775. These go for a lot more than that. Usually $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, about that range. Obviously, depending on quality. This one's kind of beat up. It's obviously missing the top jaw on the cock. And then when I actually bought it, there was a round stuck underneath the breech right there that had it out of battery. I was able to get that out. If you want to see more videos about the history of the Hall rifle, I love talking about it. But yeah, that is what this is, a model of 1819. And while not as beautiful as the model of 1803, it's definitely a really cool piece of history. If you want to pick up an original Hall rifle, I would probably set aside at least $2,000 and wait for an online auction. If you check online at like Guns America or any of those online websites, they usually have them at much more than that. So yeah, a beautiful gun and an amazing piece of American military rifle history as well as industrial history. Number three would be this. This is a model of 1822/28 Harper's Ferry Flintlock military musket. You might also hear this referred to as the model of 1816 Type 3. The model of 1816s, well, the 22/28s come from this 1816 family tree, so I'll just call it 1816. The model of 1816 military muskets are America's most produced military flintlock musket throughout all of history. About 700,000 were made at between the national armories in Springfield, Harper's Ferry, as well as all the contractors. This would have been America's last military flintlock musket to be fielded in America's military. Some really cool things about this is that you can see it borrows quite heavily from the French muskets, originally the 1777, then the 9s, then the French model of 1822s, which are generally considered the best military flintlock muskets out there. I paid $1,969 for this one, got it off an online auction, wasn't much of a bidding war. So there are some questions. The model of 1816s are probably some of the hardest ones because so many of them were converted to percussion leading up to and during the Civil War. Again, I have a bunch of videos on this if you want to know more about it. But needless to say, I think this is still an original flintlock configuration, but I'm not completely sure. There's really no telltale signs that it was converted. But yeah, these go for around $2,000 to $4,000 if you can find them in their original military flintlock configuration. I know I keep on saying two to three to 4,000. So let's just kind of look at that. Like 2,000 is that low entry level quality or just field grade quality. Obviously, you can get way cheaper than that, but 2,000 is like your field grade. And if you go all the way up to 35, 4,000, then you're going to have your pristine piece or the pristine gun that you would find. And yeah, I mean, this would be good enough to be in a museum if it turns out to be all correct. Still kind of working through that. Number two is this. This is an American Charleville gun. I picked this up for $2,369 thereabout, and I got this about 8 months ago. So these are the American Charlevilles are America's first military flintlock musket made at a national armory. I've actually seen these come up on the online auction. This one I would say is a fair price. There is a pretty solid crack right here in the stock. I never plan on shooting this. This is just part of the collection. There's actually also a crack back here on the right above the wrist of the stock. What you're looking for is you're looking for your proof marks, US stamping, your American Eagle mark. So over $2,300 for this. Again, you're going to be paying around about $2,000 to $3,000 to pick up one of these from an online auction. And yeah, so let's go on to number one. And the most expensive military firearm I have in my collection is this. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know what this is because I bring this out as many times as I can. This is the French infantry musket from the system of 1766, and it's got the improvements to make me think that it was made about 1770. This is an original gun that would have been made and sent to the US during the American Revolutionary War. It would have been technically bought by the Americans from France, but the French had given us credits to buy their guns. It was half the price to buy French guns than it was to produce guns here at home. Again, if you watch my channel, I talk about this again, whole Flintlock Friday episode. These guns are what are going to catch a premium. What you're looking for in original French infantry muskets, you'll hear them referred to as Charlevilles if you want to collect them, if you want to search for them, but that's a story for another day. What you're looking for is the stampings and the lock, stock, and the barrel. French infantry muskets will have a D for if they're the Charleville from the Charleville Armory, a D in the stock, like there is one right here. There is a D in the barrel right there, and a D on the lock plate, meaning that this is an original lock, stock, and barrel French infantry musket. What is not correct about this gun is that it actually has a rounded reinforced cock, which I think comes from a model of 1774. I paid $5,300 for this gun in an online auction. It came out of an estate sale up in Rhode Island in which they said it was sitting in an attic. So what you will probably pay if you want an original French infantry musket is at least $5,000. And I've seen the guns go all the way up to $25,000, $30,000 depending on stampings. And now what's going to increase that value is if it has United States either stamped here on the face of the stock or underneath the stock. United States, meaning that as per general orders given out by George Washington and then Congress as well, is that they were stamped United States property because a lot of people were running off with the guns. So to show that this belonged to the US government, they started stamping it. Yeah, $5,300 for this beautiful piece of American history. So that is my collection in conclusion. I just wanted to give you guys a general overview of what I've spent on my military flintlocks. Like I know I did say a lot of $2,000 to $4,000 and kind of just hit back on that point. If you're gonna spend the money, buy the books, do the research, and make sure that you're spending it correctly. I'm obviously no expert. If you've seen the "Don't Make This Mistake," I've bought a reconversion that cost me about $2,300, and that turned out to be a $1,000 gun. So I've had my wins, I've had my losses. Yeah, that's all I have really for today's video. I just wanted to help you guys get a general idea of what you're going to be spending if you're going to try to pick up these historic military flintlock weapons from an online auction. There'll be another video coming out in which I kind of go over what I look for when I'm going through the auctions and some other tips and tricks I have when it comes to collecting. This was just a general value of the guns, value of what I've paid. Use that information to help you put together a range and how much you would probably spend on any of these military flintlock muskets. So, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do. And if you have any great collecting tips, leave them down below. Until next time, take care.